Till then, let me announce the next session for the day, Reforming Governance, Regulating Sport. And for this session, we are delighted to have with us Vinod Rai ji, and he will be in conversation with Abhilash Khandekar ji and Shlok Chandra ji. Let me introduce you to the author for this session. Vinod Rai ji is a former IAS officer and author who has 11th Comptroller, who was the 11th Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He is a former chairman of the UN panel of external auditors and presently a distinguished visiting research fellow at Institute of South Asian Studies, Singapore. Forbes magazine had described Rai as being among that rare breed of civil servants who knows how to get work done in the government. He is also the author of the book Not Just a Night Watchman and Rethinking Good Governance amongst other writings. मैं चाहूँगा हम सब तालियों के साथ उनका स्वागत करें, आदर करें. As Yes, as the first discussant for this session, we have Abhilash Khandekar ji. He is a veteran multilingual journalist standing close to a rich 40 years of experience in print and electronic media. He wears many hats. Born in Mumbai, he began his professional career as a sport journalist with Free Press Journal in early 80s. He later shifted to political journalism to join the Hindustan Times as its head at Bhopal and then went on to become the editor of Dainik Bhaskar and its state editorial head in Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. Please welcome Abhilash ji with a round of applause. Also happens to be the member for Society for Culture and Environment. As the second discussant for the day, we are extremely delighted to have Shlok Chandra ji with us. He is an alumnus of National Law University, Bangalore. He is an advocate practicing in the Supreme Court and the High Court of Delhi. He is the Standing Counsel of Income Tax Department and many public sector bodies. He has been appointed as an arbitrator both by the High Courts and by the Registrar of Cooperative Societies. He is very passionate about sports and governance matters, and that is probably why we have such a great gentleman here with us. And I would like to request the three of you to please begin the session. Zordar taaliyan honi chahiye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Vinod Rai, to the Bhopal Literature Festival. We are quite grateful to you for coming for a few hours from Delhi all the way. You are a busy person, and I believe that you are flying back tonight itself and not. So we are really grateful that you are here. You have got large number of books, but the book that we have chosen for the larger focus is not just a night watchman that you may have, many of the audience may have read it. So Shlok is also here, is an old friend. So the reforming governance in sports administration is the focus of the topic at the evening today. And I would now say that you are no longer a night watchman now. So how are you feeling now looking back? And how was the 33-month inning which had all its ups and downs, and ultimately you were successful in reforming, I say, cricket to some extent. So some of the highlights of that 33-month tenure as COA chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Khandekar Sahab, and thank you, Shlok, for inviting me to be here today. I'm indeed very grateful to the audience because for the simple reason that nobody likes a Babu. I'm an ex-Babu. And least of all does anybody want to see or hear an auditor, and I'm a combination of both. So you're wasting a lovely Sunday afternoon, Saturday evening for being here. Thank you very much for coming. Well, how do I feel after those 33 months? Retired, unemployed, and very happy doing what I am, which means being unemployed. Those were very nice 33 months, which I pursued my passion of cricket. But administration of cricket is, I've realized, far more difficult than playing cricket.
I can
Which
vouch for
you
that
can
because
vouch
I am into now my second term as president of MP Cricket Association, recently elected unopposed for the second term. The first term was also unopposed, and in 2019 when the reforms had just been introduced, and my vice president has come all the way, Mr. Saluja, here you can stand up and just say hello to you. He is the vice president of MP Cricket Association, and none of us had any direct involvement in the game of cricket administration. So that is perhaps I call myself as the son of Loda committee. So the first time when I was the president, but let me tell you, sir, that all the reforms that you have narrated in your books, there must have been much more to write home about. The idea of Loda committee / COA, which tried to put things in order in Indian cricket administration, which was being allegedly run unprofessionally. That is the critics of the old BCCI say. How do you think now the scenario now, after 3 years of Supreme Court order and Loda committee having been implemented?
See, I must confess that though I have followed cricket very closely, cricket administration after leaving BCCI, I have really not gotten into it. But if you see the way cricket is being run, I think the administration should be all right, because whatever the former Supreme Court diktat was regarding the constitution of the BCCI has been slightly changed recently. Very recently. So I guess administration must be good, because the team seems to be performing well, and I'm very happy about one thing, that women's team is being given a lot of importance and priority by you people.
Yeah. Over to Shlok, because now you have referred to the Supreme Court recent judgment, whether it is how do you see, Shlok, you are an advocate.
Yes, sir. Before that, I'll just come to one question which I'm sure everyone wants to know, that in your tenure there was a controversy of between continuation of the contract of Anil Kumble and and played out in public the dispute between Virat Kohli and Anil Kumble, and how did the COA deal with it, and was it a stressful time because it was a sensitive issue for Indian cricket at that time? How did the COA deal with it? If you can tell us a little about it.
See, Anil Kumble is a legend in a large number of ways. All of us admire his cricketing ability, his performance, and more importantly, his cricketing mind. He's remarkable in terms of the way he thinks, in futuristic, and the way he can mold a lot of cricket players. But what happened was that in 2016, the Cricket Advisory Committee comprising Sachin, Saurav Ganguly and VVS Lakshman was asked to choose a coach, head coach. 21 names were given to them. They couldn't choose any one of those 21, and they asked for Kumble's name to be included in that, and they chose Kumble. But whatever they recommended, by chance BCCI accepted only a 1-year contract for Anil Kumble, and that contract was expiring on June 21st. We took over in February. We got to know only in April that his contract was a 1-year contract, and Shlok, you're an advocate. That contract didn't even have a clause for review or automatic extension. That became a huge problem for us, because though whatever little controversy was playing out in the media, we felt, as did Sachin, Saurav and VVS, that Kumble should have been continued as a head coach. But unfortunately, we had to follow a procedure. And, that procedure said call for applications again. So we had to call for applications again. He was automatically considered when the applications were called for. But Kumble being Kumble, and I have mentioned in the book, he put out a tweet saying that, look, there has been some controversy or dissonance attributed to me in the dressing room. I feel it is better I step out. And he stepped out. I think that was the most noble decision that he took, because he took it upon himself to step out, though the Cricket Advisory Committee had decided to recommend him for another 2-year term.
So you referred to media reports and criticism and all that, but when you began your innings, the media had called the Ghostbusters team. So 4 Ghostbusters. So would you like to throw some light on the Ghostbusters role and the film that?
See, what had happened was that let me use the expression that BCCI, and you know it very well, BCCI had been held captive. BCCI administration had been held captive by a clique who called themselves cricket administrators. How good they were, well, I don't want to comment upon it, but they, despite a Supreme Court ruling, were not willing to vacate. And that is why this journalist, one of your species, I must say, said that these are Ghostbusters because they will be asked to remove these administrators who thought they were the best in the world, who thought they were indispensable, and who thought that nobody can run cricket in India if they were removed. They took indispensability upon themselves. But anyway, as time played out, we managed to get rid of them.
So there's a very touching part in the book where you say that when the India-Australia final of the women's team was going on, that you were fervently praying for the success of the women's team, not because of the success that it would bring, but because you wanted them to have their rightful place in the cricketing world, and for them also to get the accolades which the male team gets. So that was very touching. And if you can just tell us a little how your experience in managing the women's team has been. You also mentioned that one regret that you had was that you did not devote as much time to the women's team as you would have liked.
Yeah. In fact, the women's team deserves a huge amount of accolades.
Give a big hand. Because the recent vice captain of the Indian team is from Bhopal, Soumya Tiwari, and earlier one, Pooja Vastrakar, is from a very backward or maybe backward district of Madhya Pradesh called Shahdol.
She's from Indore. I think they've settled in Indore.
She settled in Indore because she has started playing there, but she hails from Shahdol and she was picked up for the first time from Shahdol district. And the vice captain is from Bhopal. So women's cricket also deserves, as Sir says, a pat on the back of the administrators as well as the coaches as well as the
absolutely. When we took over, we went to the National Cricket Academy. I was aghast to see that men's uniform, the kit was being cut and shaped to suit the women, which was, I think, the unkindest cut, and that's the time when we decided that this won't do. They will get the best of playing practice. They will get the best of logistics. We revised their contract. And this, what you are referring to, can you believe it? That the match in which Harman scored 175 runs, Harmanpreet, who was the vice captain, Mithali was the captain, she scored 175 runs. These girls had not had a proper breakfast that morning. Because the bus had gone late, they rushed from the hotel to the stadium. They managed to get some samosas. And that's all that they had eaten. So when I was seeing the match on television, I realized that Harmanpreet was not trying to run. So anyway, after the match ended, they won. I called her. She says, "Sir, kya karoon?" My stomach was cramping badly. तो मैंने सोचा कि मैं बल्ला अब घुमाऊं, मैं दौड़ तो सकती नहीं हूँ. So she started hitting and she hit 11 sixes in that match, if you recall.
I did not know the background of this.
And she says, नाश्ता नहीं मिला था, समोसे खाए थे, and my stomach was cramping badly, I couldn't run. And believe it, in those circumstances, to have scored was a remarkable feat. And that was when I felt I should have devoted some more time to these girls. But then we did take care of them afterwards.
So one question again back to your tenure and the efforts to reform cricket administration. So I had met amicus curiae, Mr. Narasimha in Delhi when he was an advocate, and I was not the president of MP Cricket Association. And the model constitution for BCCI and for the state association was also being framed. And we were trying to convince him that BCCI's working is through state associations, and they have got only that time 29, 30 members. That's all. And now Northeast and couple of state associations have added, so about 36, 37. But in state associations matter, sir, we have life members, we have clubs as members, we have got districts as members, and in Madhya Pradesh there are 10 revenue divisions, they are our divisional members. So copying the BCCI constitution for state associations was very difficult. Implementing, now we are only 5 office bearers running Madhya Pradesh Cricket Association, only 5 people, and we are all honorary. So we have to create, my headquarters are in Indore. So the point, I mean, what I'm trying to underline is the ground reality is were much different than what the Supreme Court, what the COA may have seen. But did you at any point of time realize the difficulties that the state association, even if they were so-called ghosts, had to face while conducting cricket? Now I am organizing on 24th of January India-New Zealand one-day match in Indore. I have yet to go into Indore, but large number of problems have to be sorted out by the office bearers.
Khandekar Sahab, you're absolutely right. There was a practical difficulty in the Lodha Constitution says that the apex committee of the BCCI will have 9 members. And they said that the state associations will mirror that, which means 9 members only. But actually, cricket is run in the states and by the state associations. BCCI is only the overarching body. We realize that, but it was the court which gave us discretion much later when Mr. Narasimha was appointed the amicus curiae. And if you remember, then we made it up to 19. So larger associations can have 19 members.
So we also have the, what we call it, the committee now. Earlier we used to call it managing committee. It has 19 members, but office bearers are president, vice president, secretary, joint secretary and treasurer. That's all. And we have to take decisions which are open to criticism. We are building a stadium worth 200 crore in Gwalior, and there are all kinds of decisions. Of course, we take the help of the experts, but fact remains that a state association does not have more than 5 office bearers now. Anyway, whether it is Vidarbha, whether it is Mumbai, whether it is Assam, wherever. So, just I wanted to ask you whether that from a bird's eye view, sitting in Delhi and interacting with various officials, did that dawn upon you that this kind of a situation will arise now? Because the 70-year formula is also coming in way. Now I am serving my second term. After that I have to go in for cooling off. After that I will be touching 70. I will be of no use.
And just to interestingly add that Sir had to, when he turned 70, he took legal opinion on whether he can continue as COA. That was the propriety that he maintained. So, and of course the legal opinion was that does not, Gopal Subramaniam, the senior advocate, opined that it does not apply to COA. But
so
did
Niranjan Shah give you some kind of compliment when you turned 70?
he did, but it didn't reach me. Achha. It reached only up to media, it never got to me. But all said and done, Niranjan Shah is a very committed cricket administrator. He has run Saurashtra Rajkot cricket very ably. He has committed himself to it, and the stadium which he has built.
Yes.
You know, it's a lovely stadium which he has built over there, and he continues to run it. But unfortunately, the court said 70, so he had to quit. But I think his son is still playing cricket.
So there is some kind of conflict of interest, but his son is now, I think, Niranjan Shah's son is, I think, the president or secretary of Saurashtra Cricket Association. Yeah. We recently met in Mumbai. So, Shlok?
Yeah. Sir, in your tenure as COA, you had to play roles both as negotiator and as mediator. You had to mediate between Mithali Raj and Harmanpreet once. So if you can tell us a little about that 3-hour session where you sat with the two ladies and ironed out their issues, and the negotiation which you had to do on behalf of BCCI with ICC to get to finalize the revenue share of BCCI which ICC would give us. If you can tell us a little about both experiences.
Yeah. See, the negotiation regarding funding by ICC was done very effectively by my colleague, gentleman called Vikram Limaye, who had to leave later on. Vikram is a finance professional, and he took over as the CEO of National Stock Exchange.
Stock Exchange.
That's why he had to leave. for all cricket administrators, there's one on my left, who say that they are the best to negotiate, it took Vikram just 5 days to understand what the formula was all about, reconstitute another offer, which he gave to the ICC, and the ICC accepted it. So whereas earlier they were offering us only 295 million, Vikram could get it increased to 405 million, and he was very effective in doing that. Regards Harmanpreet and Mithali, it was most unfortunate. Both are absolutely professional cricketers, totally dedicated. And Mithali, remarkable, but she started playing first-class cricket in 1999. And she retired only last year.
Last year.
A remarkable cricketer who's carried a women's cricket on her shoulder for about 20 odd years. Harmanpreet, a new breed of cricketers, an excellent batsman, very good team management, a captain. But unfortunately what happened was that there was some issue in West Indies where Mithali was not played in a particular game. Mithali didn't mind not playing. The only thing was she felt that she was a senior cricketer and she should have been informed much in advance, because quite often somebody plays, somebody doesn't play, they get used to it. But the worst thing that happened was that people on the outside started speculating about why X was included, why Y was not included, etc. And that became media news. Now, my respect for Harmanpreet goes up remarkably because when the team came back to India, Harmanpreet was the one who got in touch with me through the general manager cricket those days, who was Sabah Kareem, saying that, look, I don't want any misunderstanding with Mithali. So I want to sit across the table and talk to her and clear all misunderstandings. Are you willing to sit with us? That was, and that request came to me on a Friday. Saturday we decided that yes, let's do it, because these two girls are going to be leaders of women's cricket in the days to come. So you won't believe it, Mithali was playing in Guntur. She flew to Hyderabad, from there took a flight to Delhi, and Harmanpreet she belongs to Moga in Punjab. She drove 8 hours that morning. On a Sunday morning they came to Delhi and we chit-chatted. There was no hard feeling between the two of them. Unfortunately what had happened is what I would call, and you will understand that term, tamash beans from outside.
Tamash beans, huh?
Tamash beans from outside. They had put in all kinds of wrong thoughts into the minds of these two girls. Fortunately, they parted as good friends. And in the process, they educated me a lot about how women's cricket needed to be run. And one of the things was women's IPL, which I'm very happy is now being taken forward by the BCCI.
IPL,
I think it's a remarkable story. And we owe it to these girls for the difficult times that they have had, the hardships that they have faced, and how they have come up and delivered in the face of all those challenges.
So you referred to Mr. Limay. So I've had this question in mind at the later stage of this discussion, but now I am tempted to ask, what happened to Ramchandra Guha? You have given his mails and detailed listing, but I would like, for the interest of the audience, to say what happened and why did he have to leave?
See, Ramchandra Guha is a great intellectual, a historian, who knows history of Indian cricket backwards. I don't think anybody knows the history of Indian cricket as well as Ram does, But he's an academic. And an academic, let me say that sometimes the nuances of administration do not, get into their minds. Now what happened was, Ram had all the very good intentions. He wanted 3 things to be done. 1, remove what he called the star culture among players. Okay?
Quite
Number
right.
2, he said, all these contracts which have been given for 10 months, contracts were being given by BCCI only for 10 months, so that 2 months those cricketers or managers could play IPL.
Yeah, IPL, yeah.
And the third thing he said was that it just come to my mind.
He made a mention of Gavaskar also.
Yeah, no,
and,
he said that give an automatic extension to Anil Kumble.
automatic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you all must understand that star culture, BCCI doesn't make anybody a star. If Shah Rukh Khan is a star today, not because Filmfare has made him a star or anything, because you and I, we like his acting, and we adulate him, and he becomes a star in that sense. So, BCCI has not made a Anil Kumble or a Saurav Ganguly or a Virat Kohli a star.
Their own
Watching
performances,
public,
their own
the
performances, their
public,
talent.
The public, their talent, the people who view them, the viewing public, who has made them a star, and we couldn't finish that in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time or 2 months' time. Number two, extension of contract for Kumble. I've just explained to you the difficulties in that. He belongs to Bangalore, Ramchandra Goa, and so does Kumble. They know each other very well. Now, because we said that there are some legal difficulties in this, he thought he was not getting a voice. I have not written it in as many words in the book.
Therefore the question.
Huh?
Therefore this question.
Yeah. So I've not written it in there, but he just in a huff resigned. I wish he had discussed with us before resigning. I'm sure I would have been able to persuade him to stay on because he was an asset and we would have liked to retain him in the COA.
Very good. Shlok?
Yeah. So in your book, you also say that, sometimes we think that cricketers are, are selfish, but there was one incident when you were having a meeting with MS Dhoni and Virat Kohli, where historically there was contract A, B, C, that of course Dhoni gave the suggestion of having an A+ contract, but he said you must focus on B and C because these are players who are key for the Indian cricket team, but these are not necessarily star players and they don't necessarily have the endorsements. So you must also take care of B and C and ensure that these values also go up sufficiently. So that was a very nice thing to see, that players looking out for other players. So tell us, how was your experience of interacting with Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni? And is it true that Dhoni is the most reclusive of all cricketers and the most difficult to get through to?
Dhoni carries a telephone which has an Australia number. So you can imagine how difficult it is to get through to him, and he operates it on WhatsApp only. And India numbers, I think he changes them every Monday morning, But my respect, my esteem for these guys went up hugely because we started discussing players' contracts with them, which had never been discussed with them ever earlier. Because in one informal meeting I had with them, they mentioned that over the previous year, out of 365 days in the year, they had played cricket for 272 days. Now, can you imagine the workload of a human body when you are playing 272 days of the kind of cricket that they play now? You may be the fittest person in the whole wide world, but the body takes a toll. Injuries do happen. So what we were trying to do is we were trying to moderate that. And then their contracts had not been renewed from 2011.
11, yes, you have written it.
1 crore and 50 lakhs was what they were being paid. Now, gone are the times when I remember in 1983, even a person like Sunil Gavaskar, he couldn't make a living out of playing cricket. So he had been employed by a company called
Nirlons,
isn't it?
Mumbai, yeah.
Nirlon Mumbai had employed him. All these girls who are playing cricket now are all employees of the railways. Mitali is employee of South Central Railway, and these all over the place that they are, because cricket does not give them a living. Now, same thing when we start discussing with Virat, Rohit was there, Rohit Sharma was there, MS Dhoni was there, Ravi Shastri was also present in that discussion. Then it was Dhoni who came up with the idea saying that, look, we have categories A, B and C. Create a A+ category also, which means players who play all the formats of the game. Most of them don't. But the most interesting point he made was that B and C category, make it what I call a flat pyramid. So that B and C category of players get enough to devote their entire life on cricket alone and don't have to look for alternative avenues for income. So what we did was we made 5 crores and 7 crores as the.
But there is also a flip side, sir, to that, that most of the people feel that the money has gone into heads of the successful stars and stardom that you have already been speaking about. And they are not talking if somebody is using Australian SIM or something. And when we organize matches, a lot of people approach us, including officers, to have a photograph or an autograph, but nobody gives. Sunil Gavaskar used to talk to me and would very freely give autographs and get photographs. But nowadays, getting a photograph with any cricketer for any official is impossible. So
sir, is that because of the IPL?
No, see, I won't link.
because the stardom has gone into their
Stardom, see, they are young. They are 19, 20, 21, and the kind of adulation that they get is nobody's business. You know that better. So it's not getting 5 crores or 3 crores. In IPL, they get 16 crores. They get 11 crores. See, IPL, the bidding starts with 2 crores, 3 crores, etc. So it's not only the BCCI money. They have become stars in their own right but I think IPL is very good because earlier it was only Ranji cricket, which we could all aspire for. Today, at the least, there are 10 teams. Each team has 25 members.
So, sir, you may like to congratulate the Madhya Pradesh Cricket Association for winning the Ranji Trophy for the first time in 70 years this year.
I admire. Actually, yes,
No,
I do.
It happened in my tenure, but I give the credit to the coach, Chandu Pandit, who changed the entire training schedule, and of course to the players.
Not only the
Our Holkers team used to win Ranji Trophy off and on, and they created record and made history. But in Madhya Pradesh, since Madhya Pradesh came into being in 1956, this is the first time that in Bangalore in 2022 that we won the Ranji Trophy.
No, for one more reason. And the reason is that Madhya Pradesh cricket allowed merit. Which means the best players were chosen for the Ranji team.
Thank you, sir.
It was not happening and still does not happen in large number of Ranji teams, So I think it was an admirable achievement.
So definitely there are issues about selection committees, and we get pressure. I got calls from ministers also that ye ladke ko le lo. Maine kaha, I don't interfere in selection. And the selectors have been asked to be as fair as possible, come over every other consideration to focus on Madhya Pradesh cricket at various age levels. तो 15 लड़के खिलाड़ी है या लड़कियां, वो 16 लड़का या लड़की सोचते हैं कि ये 15 में से 3-4 लोगों ने तो किसी से फ़ोन करवा दिया होगा अभिलाष खांडेकर को. So what do we do? But we have definitely stuck to merit, and everyone should try to stick to merit, because nobody, even the Prime Minister, cannot have Kohli out or somebody else in, or what is. So talent has to be recognized
and rewarded.
Shlok,
There was also
the time is running out, and the anchor is saying that we need to wind up, but still we can talk.
There was
for
this
2
one
minutes.
controversy of KL Rahul and Hardik Pandya. They had gone on a show Coffee with Karan and made some unsavory comments. And in your time, the view was taken that these are young boys. They have made a mistake off the field. And of course, there was a penalty. There was an ombudsman who was appointed. But it must please you that that decision of not spoiling their career has been vindicated, because now both of them have gone on to become to lead the Indian cricket team in different formats. So
and Mr. Chaudhary also made a comment that had they been an interview with sports journalists, perhaps they could have been let off, but they went for a show with Coffee with Karan or something. Sir?
Well, yes. Inexperienced people, they are not exposed to national television. They were indulging in schoolboy kind of talk, the kind of talk that you and I would do in a dressing room or anything, and they didn't realize that they were on national television, which I think did not deserve a very harsh punishment, and so we decided that we banned them for 2-3 matches, and the ombudsman levied a fine of about 20 lakhs on them. I think that was good enough.
So since we have to wind up, I don't want to wind up this session, but I would request you, sir, to say something or disclose something in Bhopal while talking to the president of MP Cricket Association, something which you have not included in this book, and you would have liked to, Tell the people.
The entire purpose of implementing the Lodha constitution was so to make you the chairman of the president of the MPCA. Which I have not disclosed in the book.
But how are these 33 months highs and lows? I mean, that is the brief question.
No, the highs were definitely of seeing the cricketers perform. Lows were that people sitting outside who did not understand cricket administration, they were the ones who were trying to, interfere and creating this bad blood among cricketers, which I thought was very unfair, and that's been sorted out now.
And were you hurt by any chance by the criticism from the state associations or cricket administrations of the yesteryears or cricketers that the COA was taking too much of time to settle things and ultimately it ended in 33-month rule? Or it could have been done in about a month or in about a year or so?
No, there was no question of getting hurt or anything. See, we didn't extend the time. The time was extended by state associations who were not willing to adopt the constitution. The moment you people adopted, we held elections. And even those elections, 3 states had not adopted the constitution.
Yes.
You know the states also. I've written about them. So we were in the mode to implement the Supreme Court verdict at the earliest. But it was dependent upon the democratic behavior of the state associations.
Gentlemen, with your permission, I would like to...
Thank you.
Yes, open the floor to the audience. So, you can raise your hand if you have questions. Okay, 2 questions हम ले पाएंगे जो 2 हाथी मुझे दिखे. So, the sir in the front row, please. आप खुद को introduce कीजिए and अपना please सवाल
My
और
name
जवाब
is
short रखिएगा.
Harinder Sikka. I'm from Piramal Group. 2 small questions, both are interesting. I've known you for ages, and hats off to you to point the watchdogs of the stature of Ajit Singh. And is that betting threat really as serious even now, or is it passé? Second thing is, my group handles all the 112 aspirational districts of the Prime Minister. All 100, and earlier 25 we got onto. Dealing with these girls, tribal, you realize that their hand-eye coordination, they do not know sea of cricket, is so good that from a distance, if they throw a stone, it reaches that at a speed, it's amazing, and it hits bang on. We have no wherewithal, we sponsor them, we bring them up, we try and do that. Why shouldn't, like one girl was picked up for hockey. Her father was a roadside laborer who was laying the tarmac and did not have a TV. TV is a foregone thing, and then they installed it hurriedly, and this was public news. But like Dhoni said that B and C, go further down D. These people have far more caliber and fire in the belly to do something. If you bring those girls up, there are companies who are willing to sponsor.
Okay.
So do you have a solution to this?
Yes,
Do you
very
want to
fast, sir.
utilize the corporate world for such asset lying
See,
somewhere?
So
your
please
first
repeat.
question, betting. Yes, we suspect that betting is still going on. We try our best to try and get to the bottom of it, but I think betting is still going on. I mean, it's like what do you call it, satta and things like that, Oi, right? And those are the kind of things that are going on. About these girls, there are lots of associations now who are catching them young and giving them hostel facilities to train. And I think it's a good point you have raised, that you should approach the state associations and say, we are willing to sponsor some girls. And whether it's Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, and these kind of places where, you can pick out the right kind of talent and train them to be good players, whether cricket or hockey, whatever it is. Now, hockey is a remarkable success story,
Thank you, sir. Next question, please. Last question.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us deep insights about Indian cricket. My name is Aradhya.
Please stand up.
So, sir, I am a very avid cricket follower. My question to you is that you mentioned how IPL has benefited cricketers, but when I talk about international cricket, do you think it has some kind of impact on the international cricket? For example, players like Jasprit Bumrah, they play all the IPL matches, but when it comes to international cricket, their workload increases, and they are not able to play all the games. So do you think that IPL has somehow affected Indian cricket in a negative way also?
I don't think so. I don't subscribe to that viewpoint at all. That's why I raised the issue of workload. Workload is now being moderated by these people, and the Lodha Constitution very clearly says that 15 days before an international event and 15 days after that you cannot have the IPL. So it is being very scientifically monitored now to just ensure that the workload is such that these players are able to manage. Injuries, of course, nobody can help, There's nothing that you can do about it because it's a high-strung game, you see, and the body does take a lot of beating in the game. So it is being managed very scientifically now.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Vinod Rai ji, Shlok Chandra ji और अभिलाष खांडेकर जी. मैं अब निवेदन करना चाहूँगा to the director of BLF, राघव चंद्रा जी, कि वो आगे आएँ और हमारे authors और discussants को एक memento से पेश करें as a symbol of love and respect. We have been following this trend all the way along. Yes. जितने लोग सुबह से जुड़े हुए हैं वो जानते हैं. The picture is of a highly endangered bird called lesser florican, which was captured by Padma Shri Bhalu Monde ji, जिनका फोटोग्राफी एग्जीबिशन भी साथ में लगा हुआ है. Please do have a look अगर आपने अभी तक नहीं देखा है तो. Thank you so much, gentlemen. जोरदार तालियां होनी चाहिए. Cricket is something that binds all of us together, and it was indeed a wonderful discussion. Moving on, the next topic, the next session is entitled as Empathy as a Leadership Science. Quite interesting. Empathy is something that all of us go through and experience.